Hello guys and welcome to my new video. And there has been some clash tuning happening in season 4 and we're going to focus on healers. We're going to talk about the good, we're going to talk about the meta, we're going to talk about what's happening in season 4. Again, none of these changes, disclaimer, none of these changes are really going to shift the meta in any shape or form when it comes to especially that Mythic Plus content, because the god comp and things like that are still here. Nothing really happened to them, so don't be too excited about this. But I think a lot of these will help out your class if you keep playing them. So for example, we're going to start off with healers. I'm going to start off with Preservation Evoker. All healing increased by 6%. And this is honestly pretty nice. 6% is nothing to be kind of laughed at. And we're going to look at the raid performance in terms of the pure HPS for the 3 awakened raids that are available right now. And right now we're looking at a major, so this is mythic 80 percentile, and if you go higher percentiles it's somewhat similar. But big disclaimer for these HPS chats right now. This is awakened raid season. I don't know for a lot of people out there, but for our guild who's doing mythic, a lot of the people are already fully geared. We're under healing content, and we're also the kill timers for bosses is a lot shorter than it was when we were progressing. Amir Jasil, if you look at Aberus, if you look at the Vault of Incarnate, you'll see that Preservation Evoker, the best definition of their HPS right now, is mid of the table type of thing. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if you look at the HPS performance for Aberus, the difference is absolutely minuscule. Like, this is arguably, if you're looking at the pure HPS standpoint, the best balancing you've seen with the exception of Holy Paladin. And we'll talk about Holy Paladin because Holy Paladin did receive buffs. So Preservation Evoker is getting a 6% healing increase, which means that for a lot of these raids out there, Preservation Evoker is looking to be a lot more or closer to the top, or to some extent topping the HPS meters when you look at this, because 6% is not an irrelevant buff. So if you're playing Preservation Evoker, I think you're going to be happy with this. Buffs are buffs, but to some extent, my thinking is that Blizzard is looking at Preservation Evoker and they're like, okay, Preservation Evoker has to deal with the range limitations. And I've been banging on about range limitations for far too long. I'm almost too tired to talk about it. And I think Blizzard is looking at this and they're like, okay, Preservation Evokers have to play around these range limitations. Right now, they're not really getting enough reward out of it. And we're going to buff your overall healing, so you're going to be closer to that top of the HPS meters, and you're going to be rewarded for playing this class. Now, I much rather have a range increase than having this healing increase. I think range has been a bane of Preservation Evokers for a very long time, depending on which content you're really trying to focus on. I think there are certain keys in Mythic Plus, especially in poke content, where playing Preservation Evoker just makes you tear your hair out, because it can be so awkward or so annoying. You can play around those range limitations, but it just feels really awkward. And I've been kind of hoping that in the War Within they would change their mind, they would pull the plug from the whole niche of this healer, because I don't think the niche works. I don't think shorter range on healers works. Shorter range on DPS, like Devastation and Augmentation, it's not that bad. Shorter range on healers is different, because if you can't heal someone, they're probably going to die. So there's a lot of this discussion. Let me know how I feel about this. Overall, I'm happy about the buff, the Preservation Evoker. Just pull the plug, increase the range. I think a lot more people would be more inclined in playing this spec. And in terms of other changes, Restoration Druid got a buff. Moonfire now costs less mana, which is honestly a kind of a weird change when you look at all the other things that they decided to do. I'm not against having your mana cost reduced for DPS abilities. And I think a lot of Resto Druids who are doing Mythic Plus content, they're gonna be like, okay, I'll save a bit more mana when I'm pressing Moonfire. Nothing too amazing, nothing too crazy, just kind of a little baffling in terms of that they chose to do this, but a buff's a buff, right? And lastly, the last changes are Holy Paladin. And when was the last time I read a blue post where Holy Paladin was actually mentioned in a positive light? Ever since the rework in Season 2, every single patch note after that has been negativity, nerfs, and all those things. So Holy Paladin, Word of Glory is healing is increased by 15%. Light of Dawn healing increased by 20%. So your holy power spenders are going to be doing more healing. And this is something that Holy Paladins have been asking for so long, because holy power spenders just hit like wet noodle. Now, I'm not saying this is going to change a whole lot in terms of Holy Paladin is going to become a meta in Mythic Plus, or is going to be topping meters in raids and things like that. Again, your HPS is going to increase. It's not going to change anything in terms of community perception, but forget about the HPS increase from this change. It's quite minuscule, but it's actually significant enough to bring Holy Power back. And what does that mean? If you've been playing your Holy Paladin in something like raid content, you might have been playing a build which doesn't really care about Holy Power, and you only use your Holy Power spenders based on Blessing of Dawn stacks. With this change, it's very likely that you won't have to play like this. You will pay attention to Holy Power. You will use your Holy Power spenders when they're available. This is the right step towards making Holy Paladin feel better. And I have my own version of what makes Holy Paladin perfect in terms of melee playstyle, instant cast heals and all that. And I would love for that to come back. I'm not sure if Blizzard feels the exact same way, looking at the War Within and things like that, but we'll have to see. Overall, let me know how you feel about the Holy Paladin changes. Do you think it's a little bit too late? Because Holy Paladins have been begging for Holy Power Spender increase for I don't know how long now. Finally, Blizzard has done this in Season 4. If you look at some of the HPS stats, again, a Major Seal, you'll see Holy Paladin is last. If you go at Aberrus, you'll see Holy Paladin is also last in terms of HPS. And in Vault of Incarnates, guess who's last? Holy Paladin. So you can see why Blizzard is trying to focus, again, on Holy Paladins in terms of HPS. I don't want people to pay too much attention in terms of these chats right now, because Season 4 raiding specifically is a bit of a meme season. But I'm just happy Blizzard is acknowledging Holy Paladins in any shape or form, because that's how desperate I am for anything positive. But if you look at Mythic Plus and if you look at some of the DPS charts or indicators right now, if you're looking at Mythic stats, you can see that Holy Paladin's DPS is on the lower end. I would have liked to see some buffs to damage, maybe some mana management improvements. So Holy Paladin still has ways to go, in my opinion, in order to, again, improve its gameplay. But I think it's, again, nice to see some changes to Holy Paladin. It's not really going to change a whole lot. The meta right now, if you're looking, again, the same website, Mythic Stats, if you're looking at representation for really high keys, this is for week 6, so it's still in progress. If you're watching this video later on, these charts might change a bit, but they probably won't, because the God meta is still there, the God comp is still there. You still have your Resto, Druid, Vengeance, Demon Hunter, and basically ranged, because ranged specs are just so insanely, or they're representing a lot bigger portion than melee. And in terms of healers, you can see that Resto Druid is kind of dominating. And Holy Paladin has fallen off a lot, because I think a lot of Holy Paladin players at the end of Season 2, at the start of Season 3, and basically in Season 4, they probably have re-rolled. You only have the hardcore Holy Paladin enjoyers right now that are playing this spec, and they're hoping, in my eyes, they're hoping for the class to be fixed in the War Within. So I'm happy Blizzard is doing something in between. They're trying, or they're showing that they care about Holy Paladins to some extent. It's not going to change anything right now in Season 4, but for the people that are playing Holy Paladin, they're going to feel a little bit better. Oh, and I almost forgot, Shaman Brimming with Life now increases maximum health by 10% instead of 8%. This is impacting all of the Shaman specs, so that means you're going to get more survivability as Shaman, which is honestly something well deserved, especially if you're someone who's playing Shaman in high-end Mythic Plus content, where, again, the survivability meta is very, very much prevalent. Do you think there should have been more specific changes for Resto Shaman? Some specific improvements? Let me know. The God comp is still there. In raids, you'll probably see Preservation Evokers climbing a lot closer to the top. You'll see Holy Paladins doing a bit more healing, and that's about it. There's nothing really else to say. I'm happy that they're doing class tuning throughout Season 4, or hopefully we'll see more changes happening in Season 4, because I feel more healers need more tuning. But I'm also excited to see what's going to happen in the War Within, because that's around the corner. The beta is just, it's very, very close here. So I'm hoping to see you in the War Within beta and play with you in the War Within beta, because I really want to test out how a lot of these healers are going to feel in the next expansion. Let me know how you feel about these changes. Let me know if you feel there were certain healers that missed out in terms of being buffed. Again, there's certain specs out there in terms of DPS that are really performing extremely well, and they didn't really get touched in this kind of patch notes. Do you want to guess which spec? Anyways, guys, let me know how you feel about this, and I'll see you in my next video.